This just in, former President Donald Trump has lost his latest bid for a new judge in his hush money trial. This morning, Judge Juan Merchan declined to step aside, rejecting the third such request from Trump's lawyers. Once again, they argued that Merchan has a conflict of interest because of his daughter's work as a political consultant for prominent Democrats. The case heads toward a key ruling and potential sentencing next month. Merchan has repeatedly said he is certain he can handle the case fairly and impartially. Joining us now, NBC News legal analyst Catherine Christian. She's a former assistant district attorney in the Manhattan DA's office. So a couple questions. First of all, how many times can he make this request? I know perhaps they thought it was different this time because Kamala Harris is now the Democratic nominee, ostensibly. But can they keep making this request and going back to the court and going through the motions with this?
Well, what happens when attorneys, not very good attorneys, do that is considered frivolous conduct, and they could be sanctioned. So in this case, they would argue the Trump's attorney wasn't frivolous because there was new information, which, of course, Judge Merchan said they provided nothing new. The only thing new is now Vice President Harris is now the nominee. Nothing has changed. None of the facts have changed. Judge Merchan has an adult daughter who does not even live in his household, and what she does with her life has nothing to do with Judge Merchan. They provided no new information other than Vice President Harris is now running as the nominee for the Democratic Party. So Judge Merchan was right to, once again, as he said, for the third time, deny their motion to recuse him. And as he said, on innuendo and mischaracterizations of the facts. So inevitably, Trump's attorneys will try it again, probably, to a higher court. The First Department, who's the appellate court in Manhattan, already denied it. They'll deny it again. But this is just what Trump and his attorneys have been doing on this and other cases, quite frankly.
So if you could remind our viewers, because this has all been going on in the background of this completely renewed presidential campaign with Joe Biden stepping down, Kamala Harris stepping in. Can you remind people what exactly he was convicted for? When is the sentencing? And what is the potential consequence that he could receive that day?
Donald Trump was convicted by a jury of 34 counts of falsifying business records, the records of his company that were falsified to cover up the fact that he paid Stormy Daniels to not let the world know that they had an affair. And that would come out before his campaign. And he did that, as D.A. Bragg said, to interfere with the election. His sentencing date is September 18th. So Judge Merchan, in the meantime, is deciding whether or not to set aside the verdict based on the Supreme Court's decision. If he doesn't decide to set aside the verdict, as Judge Merchan, then Donald Trump will have his sentencing on September 18th. The maximum under New York law that Donald Trump could face is 4 years. I personally do not think that Judge Merchan will give a term of incarceration, but Donald Trump is facing that. And these are all felonies. So once he is sentenced, the judgment of conviction will be final. He will be a sentenced, convicted felon.
So are these machinations by Trump's lawyers to try and put off that sentencing date, to just move it down?
Oh, yes. Anything they can do to make sure that September 18th won't happen, I'm sure they're going to continue to try to do.
Okay. MSNBC legal analyst Catherine Christian, thank you very much for coming on this morning.